Good morning, YouTube. It's your favorite Steelers family coming back, luckily, with another win. I am Duck, and to my right, I have
Juice.
And let me tell you, it was a tough one to watch yesterday. Actually, at one point, I was sent downstairs to the basement, told not to come back until we won.
Yeah, because whenever you were up here watching it with me, the Ravens would gain a touchdown, a ton of yards, but when you were downstairs, it was the other way around. And that game was so stressful. You can't believe how stressful that was.
Yeah, stressful is not the word. It was a nightmare. But like Juice said, I went downstairs in the basement so that our team would win. And strangely enough, it happened. So next week, if we start losing, to the basement I go. But I caught up. I watched highlights. I watched pretty much the whole game recap just so I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to you guys. So no worries there. I caught up.
Okay, I know we're going to talk about defense later, but that breakup by Minkah Fitzpatrick saved us the game. Thank you, Minkah.
Yeah, no kidding. He was really in the right place at the right time. He peeled off of his man and broke up that pass. He was right in Lamar's eyes the whole way. So it just shows you when the game-winning situation is on the line, Lamar does not have it.
He should be a running back, or most likely he would not be needed for a game winner. Just saying, Ravens. And this win is really, really big for us. It gives us some breathing room. We are now 2 games ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. This is a really good win for us.
Yeah, no kidding. This win is a huge win for us. Before this game, the Ravens were 22-0 when leading at halftime with Lamar Jackson. Now they're 22-1.
Ben Roethlisberger led his 44th game-winning drive. He's now 5th of all time for game-winning drives.
Now, Big Ben did not have his best game, but he did not throw interceptions, so there's that. He was 21 out of 32, 182 yards, 2 TDs, and like I said, no interceptions. I guess in the second half, he was literally drawing up plays with his receivers. The true definition of backyard football.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, now you guys should know this by now. The run game is my favorite part of the game, and that's what we're moving into. James Conner had 15 carries, only 47 yards. That's a 3.1 average. He did have 1 TD though. Now in the passing game, Conner had 3 receptions for 13 yards. That's an average of 4.3, and he had 0 touchdowns for receiving.
Now, when it comes to receiving yards, I was right calling it Juju's game. He had 7 receptions, 67 yards, 9.6 average. Juice came in close. He said Ebron was going to lead. He had 4 receptions, 48 yards, a 12.0 average, and 1 TD. And then Claypool had 5 receptions, 42 yards, 8.4 average, and 1 touchdown.
Okay, now we're talking about the defense. Robert Spillane led us in tackles with 10, and he had that pick 6. And now Minkah Fitzpatrick had 4 tackles, and he had that great breakup at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the way that Spillane played. Now, Tuitt had 8 tackles and 2 sacks. Dupree had 4 tackles, 1 sack. TJ Watt, 3 tackles, 1 sack. And then Highsmith had an interception as well. Now, overall, I think our defense really held us down. A little sloppy towards the end, giving up big plays down the middle. But overall, I mean, I can't be mad about how they played. They contained Lamar Jackson. The running game, not so much. We gave up over 260 yards, but it is what it is. We won.
Speaking of the rushing game for Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins had 15 carries, 113 yards. That's a 7.5 average. He had 0 touchdowns though. Gus Edwards had 16 carries, 87 yards. That's a 5.4 average. He did have 1 TD. And Lamar Jackson, our favorite running back, of course, had 16 carries for 65 yards. That's a 4.1 average with 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, Lamar had 0 touchdowns rushing, but he did have 2 touchdowns throwing, and he was 13 out of 28. Not too good. 208 yards, and like I said, he had 2 interceptions. Now, for pass catchers, Willie Snead had 5 receptions, 106 yards. That's a 21.2 average. That's a little insane. Mark Andrews didn't really get targeted as much. He had 3 receptions, 32 yards, 10.7 average. I mean, overall, their pass catchers really was just Snead. Later, after the game finished, Hollywood Brown complained about his targets and how they didn't use them to his full potential. So, if we could break up that little happy marriage, that would be great.
Okay, so on to the defense for Baltimore. Deshaun Elliott only had 4 tackles and a half a sack. Marcus Peters had 3 tackles, and Marvin Humphrey had 2 tackles.
Speaking of Marvin Humphrey, unfortunately, it came out today that he has tested positive for COVID.
No, God!
We've tested negative, so hopefully it continues that way. But that's something to keep our eyes out on.
Oh yeah, how did I forget? LJ Fort, the former Steeler, had 1 tackle. Says stay with us, buddy.
Got him!
Okay, and the kickers were perfect this game for Baltimore and for the Steelers.
Yeah, shout out to Boz, man. We all appreciate you, buddy. Now, for the total yards, the Steelers only had 221 total yards. Baltimore had 457 yards. Yards per play, we had 4.4, they had 5.8. Third down efficiency for us, we only had 3 out of 9, but they only had 8 out of 15 and then 1 out of 2 on 4th down. We gave up 2 sacks and they gave up 4 sacks.
We're still leading the league in sacks, which is good. And the refs were very penalty happy. They threw the flag 12 times, and that's a total for 140 yards.
Yeah, Baltimore got majority of those penalties, but either way, I mean, the refs need to let us play. Now, I mentioned how our run defense gave up a lot of yards. It was 265 yards to be exact. The last time that's happened to us was in 1993 when the Seahawks put 267 on us.
Heading into Sunday, the Steelers were 0-21 when allowing 260 plus yards on the ground. Previously, the most given up by Pittsburgh in a win was 254 yards by the 1972 Buffalo Bills.
I believe O.J. Simpson was on that team. But anyways, Robert Spillane had his first interception since his senior season at Western Michigan. And it's funny because pick for the Ravens game was at the first quarter, 33-yard line, return for a touchdown. 2017, it was the first quarter, 35-yard line, return for a touchdown. Separated in just a couple years and 2 yards.
Alex Highsmith recorded his first INT of his career. That's talking college and pro. Spillane and Highsmith make the first pair of Steelers linebackers with an interception in the same game since James Harrison and Ryan Shazier did it in 2016.
Man, I mean, that Steelers defense really knows how to handle Lamar Jackson. He has his worst games against us. But anyways, Chase Claypool is climbing up the Steelers rookie leaderboard. He's now tied with Willie Asbury for the 3rd most touchdowns by a Steelers rook in team history. Claypool had his 9th score, and now he only trails Franco Harrison and Louis Lips, who each had 11. I think he could get there.
With 4 more sacks on Sunday, the Steelers are now on pace to finish the 2020 season with 68 sacks. If they hit that number, they have the most sacks since the 1989 Minnesota Vikings. Next week's opponents are the Dallas Cowboys, and that O-line isn't looking so hot.
So it's official, guys. We are 7-0, tied for the best start in team history since 1978. Now, a lot of it has to do with Coach T. Mike Tomlin has won his 140th regular season game, which broke a tie with Tony Dungy for the most wins by a black head coach in NFL history. And it only makes it a little bit sweeter because Tony Dungy, yeah, he played for the Steelers.
Okay, going into game balls now. For my offensive one, it's going to Juju because it was finally his game. And for my defensive game ball, I'm going to give it to Robert Spillane. He's really stepping up and showing them that he could replace Devin Bush.
Man, I hate having the same game balls, but I'm going to have to give it to Juju. I mean, those catches that he made in the second half where he fought for yardage, impressive. My runner-up for offense would have been Ebron. And then for defense, Spillane gets it, man. He really showed up. And my runner-up, Bugs. He did well as well.
Yeah, I think Bugs did well in the second half. Okay, going into improvements now. I really think we need to step up our run game on defense. If we need to, I don't think it's going to be that hard, but if we need to stop Zeke, our run game needs to step up.
I don't really agree with you on that. I mean, the Ravens, it was ridiculous because they have 2 really good running backs plus Lamar, so that makes 3 really good running backs. When we play the Cowboys, we're really just going to have to stop Zeke. I mean, I think our secondary needs to step up because we got Cooper, we have CeeDee Lamb, and we have Michael Gallup. So they have 3 really good receivers. But the downside for the Cowboys is who's going to be their quarterback? Is it going to be Ben DiNucci or is it going to be Andy Dalton? Either way, I mean, I think we can handle them. I think our improvement comes on the offensive side. Ben needs to call the plays. Forget Randy Fleeker.
Okay, so now into predictions. I think Ben will have 239 passing yards and 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I think Connor will top 100 yards. And I think for the second straight week, I think our lead receiver will be Eric Ebron.
I mean, I pretty much agree with you with everything. I think Ben's going to top 200 plus. He's going to throw for 3 TDs. He's going to have no INTs. Connor's going to rush for 100. But I think it's going to be Claypool's game. I think he's going to outmuscle those corners, and he's going to have a good game.
Okay, so I don't know who the Cowboys quarterback is going to be, but whoever they are, they're not topping 150 yards. Now, Zeke, he's only going to have 67 yards and a forced fumble recovered by us. And then the lead receiver, I think, will be CeeDee Lamb with 111 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, like Juice said, I'm not quite sure who their quarterback's going to be, but I'll say they're going to get around 180 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Zeke is not touching 100 yards. The Ravens got lucky. We're going back to business. And then their leading receiver is going to be CeeDee Lamb, 120 plus, 1 TD.
After the Sunday's game, the Steelers picked up Avery Williamson. He has 59 tackles and 1 interception. His team record went from 0-7 to 7-0.
You're wrong there, Juice. It went from 0-8 to 7-0. The Jets lost yesterday. But Williamson is going to add to the middle linebacker core, which confuses me a little bit because Spillane did a good job, but I think we're going to use Williamson more for his speed. And it's funny because him and Bud Dupree were college teammates for Kentucky.
Okay, guys, drop your score predictions for a Cowboys and Steelers game, and you never know. You could be like Hector's son, our first winner, and win Terrible Towel. He got it right on the nose.
We'll get in contact with you. Make sure you get your Terrible Towel. Yeah, guys, drop it down below. Who knows? You may win. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, liking it, notifying the bell, all that nonsense, you know, the YouTubers say. But we truly appreciate it, guys. Drop down comments below. Let us know what's going on, what you think we should do. Do you like the trade the Steelers made? We didn't give up much for them, which is very good. But we appreciate you guys. This has been Steal the Game.
We out.
Here we go, Steelers.